Okay, Facebook crashes out, so I'm back on this side, and I hope I'm in the same event, so I'll just keep going. If not, we can post the video after as a way to keep doing this. And if you don't see me or if you can't hear me, just send a comment and I will know that in a few minutes. I'm just going to wait till some of you all arrive back in this room again. I think it's just a thing about Facebook right now. It seems to be low. Hello, I'm back. All right, can you hear me? I'm just waiting for a little feedback to see if people can hear and see me. All right, great. Awesome. Nathan says it's working. Thank you. Okay, awesome. Yeah, Facebook was crashing out, so I just had to come back in here and start again. I've been on a couple of these that had that same issue before, so just know if I go out again, I'll just restart and come back. Okay, so I was talking about this idea of speaking out, particularly because this is a focus of my action-based research work, but that I think extends to everyone, particularly in this moment. And one of the key things that I want us to thinking about is that speaking out takes many forms. And since we are staying safe right now, social media is one of the greatest forms we can use. And we're so grateful that you all are using that to help us with this fundraising campaign. As I said in the previous one, 14,000 people invited to this fundraiser. Means that's a lot of people thinking about structural justice. That's a lot of people thinking about civil rights, at least taking the time to look at what their friends are posting. And that's making people, I know, because they're reaching out to me, they're reaching out to Kristen Clark, the head of the Lawyers Committee, with questions about what's going on, how they can help, how they can donate in the short and long term. So social media is working for good for once here, and we want to keep that going. Something else I really wanted to share was that this fundraiser started as a fundraiser among classmates and friends. So speaking out to friends, families, and colleagues is so important right now. And I want to encourage people to think about this as a time where you may participate in new activities that are inclusive, so that you speaking out across cultural groups, social groups, racial groups, doesn't have to be absolutely awkward. There are many groups that are focusing on justice and rights right now, but there's other activities that make our lives rich and full. And I was thinking about this a lot this week because I didn't meet Angela at a protest. We actually met in a choir. So doing those activities that you love and care about and making sure that you find other people who love and care about them can really be a great step in this. My model for action research is really a focus on staying in your wheelhouse as your first step. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to give you some really concrete examples. Thanks to Angela's giving me some great comments. The way that I think about this is I encourage everyone, especially my students, to pick their goals rather than their battles. Things that you can start with and work on that people agree really need to be done because there's so much work to do. So the way that I think about this is starting with donations and fundraising is a fundamental thing that many of us can do, even if we're not quite sure where to start in other ways. So just the fact that you're here, the fact that you all are participating in that, keep that up. Though I keep donating to this campaign and to others with the mind of, I'm not going out right now, I'm not traveling, I'm not going out to dinner, at least using some of that money, and then trying to dig a little deeper, looking at what's going on in the world right now. It just can't be understated. We're just one campaign. We're just one need of people that are out here right now. And I have been really grateful for some friends of mine and Angela, Ashley Slade, who has designed a t-shirt where all of the proceeds of buying her t-shirt goes to this campaign. And I'll put that in the notes again for everyone. One of Angela's friends designed a shoe that is gorgeous. Even my mother, who is the queen of shoes, just bought it the first day. So there's really creative ways that people are starting to be engaged even in our fundraiser. So some of the other things that I really encourage are to reach in as much as you reach out. And I'll give you an example. So I do a lot of work with historically Black colleges and universities. And there's a big push in the University of California, as there is in a lot of places, to do outreach to Black communities. But one thing I know is that people are really grateful for that outreach, but they really want in-reach as well. They want to be invited into schools, into communities, into workplaces, to have those kinds of connections, to have those kinds of information about how they can participate in things that for so long Black people were just not a part of. And I think that that's something to really think about. What is it that you do well? It could be your profession, it could be a talent, it could be a personality or quality trait. And how do you start to really share that with other people? And you don't have to necessarily do all the hard work of finding the individuals. I really encourage you to in-reach to organizations who are experts in helping make those connections happen. That's nonprofits, that's non-governmental organizations, that's universities, but it's actually government organizations as well. This is a great time to really reach out to government organizations, schools, your local government, and see what kind of in-reaching you can do. And that way, your talents, the things that you're great at, give you that undergirding confidence to go out and do other things. Okay, so I'll take comments about that in a little bit, but I want to give a little bit of ideas for people who are pushing further. And I've broken this up into school and work, social life and family, neighborhoods, and social media. All right, so one of the things that I really want to emphasize is know your rights. So people are often afraid of things before they even know what their rights are. But even if you don't want to be confrontational, you can really help support the rights of others. You can understand how organizations really support inclusion on a larger scale, given those rights that we all share, and work with an institution or an organization rather than feeling like you have to go it alone. And social life and family is another way of thinking about this. And one of the great ones here, and I'll put it in the comments just so you all can see this one because it's been so important, particularly important to me, is that you don't have to think of everything you want to say or push further. This Speak Up campaign of the Southern Poverty Law Center has been so helpful as you start to speak out and really start to help people think about discrimination, racism, and bigotry in different ways. And why I like this campaign so much is that it is organized. Say that you want to really have someone just think about talking differently rather than say, don't say that or don't do that, right? It gives you different ways of approaching conversations with everyone from your friends, your partner, to power relationships, if it's your teacher or your boss, in really in constructive ways. And two things that are important about the ways that they push further with this speaking out on the social and family level is give yourself a break. Don't beat yourself up if you can't think of the right thing to say to somebody in a particular moment. You can always come back later. You can always plan out what you want to say, talk it over with people, think it out, and then go back. Never feel like this is a lost cause of justice and greater racial justice if you don't know what to say in a particular moment. Another pushing further is one that we know is so important, and that is in our neighborhoods and our physical communities. The history of racism, the history of segregation, and how it was both mandated by the state, but done in practice by businesses and real estate agents and banks who would not give loans to Black people, really have left us isolated in our physical space. So one good way of thinking about reaching in is how can you make your neighborhood, your community, any place that you inhabit, a place where, I say this very specifically, not just where Black people may be included or forced in, but where someone would want to be. And there are community organizations all across the country who are thinking about this really specifically, particularly in this time of gentrification in many large cities, to make sure that Black people and other people are not excluded for some of these same historical reasons that we have always been. Another way to push further is through social media. Sharing information and resources in this time is critical. So many people have reached out to me because they want to do something that's right and on the right track, and they really need that information. There are many, many resources on my social media pages and websites. I would argue enough to keep you busy for years. And I'll summarize and put specific ones for you out there based on people's comments in our Q&A time. And this next piece I want to talk about is for people as they become even more brave. So, number one, if you are really feeling like this is the time you want to push your limits, and all of us are, and I say that again because this is only my second Facebook Live ever. Let's do this together. Let's think about this collective bravery. Look at examples of it in the news, in the media, in social media. See what people have been doing. And I think that that is a really important way to gain strength so that you don't feel like you have to do this second push alone. So do your homework. Turning to reputable groups and sources, people you have confidence in, and read about what they are suggesting in this moment of time. And I think that's really important. So it's one thing to be brave. It's another thing to be brave and feel like you're making it all up as you go along. And we want to make sure that that's not where people feel like they are. Along with that is don't go it alone. Wherever you are, or if you need support from others, reach out so you don't feel like that burden is all on you. A lot of my friends I know, particularly my white friends, are really signing up and being more informed by the ACLU, for example, the Anti-Defamation League for others. For others, they're turning to SURJ, right? Again, the group for racial justice. There are all kinds of groups all over the country. The NAACP has been doing this work forever. So joining those groups, going and learning, so doing that reading homework, that connecting homework, but that organization homework, that group that you can learn from in that lived space, that is a really brave way to step out right now, and I think an important one as we go forward. A lot of people do this through religious groups. You might do it through your alumni associations. You might do it through your workplace and the groups that support people, including your unions right now. There are just really a lot of different ways to make that loneliness not be the thing that lets the fear take over. And with that, I want to remind people that working with committees of the willing, so these groups and these people who really care, can really be, in many cases, more effective than individual or even small group direct confrontation. And I think that's important as we think about in social media, but also in real space. One of the things that you can do to start becoming even more brave is to amplify positive, informative voices, particularly in this moment, Black voices, so that those people who know what they are doing, who've been working this work, get more attention, get more support, financial support, emotional support, intellectual support in this moment when we need it most. So those are some of the things that I think are important. I will post these notes again once people do the Q&A, and I will now take questions. Some of them, again, in that Southern Poverty Law Center model, I don't know all the answers, but if I don't know the answer, I'll still make notes about it because there are lots of experts on this live call right now. There's other people who are experts in different areas that may, if they don't know, they may be able to put us in connection. And I think that's the freedom, that's the restorative justice aspect of this that we need to have in this moment. It's to understand that we're all learners. No one's an expert on racial justice, not even people from those particular groups. A lot of my work is focused on educating Black students to do more and learn more about what's going on. And we need to let ourselves develop and grow, not just individually, but collectively in this moment. Okay, I can see the comments now. I'll scroll back up and see if I missed anything. I think everything's working. People can hear me. The choir we were in was the Radcliffe Choral Society. It was a choir that you could join as a first-year student, and I didn't know what I was going to do when I got to Harvard. I was the only kid from my high school there, and I saw an ad for the choir, and I just went and tried out and joined it just so I wouldn't be alone, and now I've made a whole lot of lifelong friends, and I say that very seriously. I mean, these are the people who I talk to every day. Other comments: having a small part in a big action is a way to be more brave. This campaign, this fundraiser has made me more bold. I've seen how it's transformed people who've been watching it every day. Some people have decided to join the protest because of that. Others are learning more about racism, discrimination. They're speaking up to their friends, their families. They're making suggestions in their workplace. This is empowering me. This is making me feel like I can do more given the platforms that I have, particularly in the UC, which is the largest university in the world. It's making me want to do more every day. Okay? Any other questions? Give people time to think. I've been talking now for a streak. Good comment here from my sister. Recruitment and retention is anti-racism work. And I think that is an important concept. It is anti-racism work, and it can really disrupt anti-Black spaces to have really good conversations about what your recruitment and retention policies and practices are. And that's a review of them. It's thinking about strategies that you all can do as individuals and groups, whether it be an organization or a company or a learning institution. But the one that I really encourage is reaching out to organizations, reaching out to consultants who do this really well, and not feeling like you have to learn everything, start from scratch, and implement it all by yourself. So, for example, in linguistics, I travel around before the pandemic to all different types of higher ed institutions, particularly linguistics departments, schools of education, and even during this time now, I've been doing that virtual work to keep that going. All right, good comment. I think, as Sue is saying here, families and social medias and communities are crucial starting places. Again, like perfecting what works for a group is great. So maybe you don't all just agree on the same topics or the same priorities. I know my family doesn't. But if there are 2 or 3 things that you can work on as action points, you can say, look, we may be from different backgrounds. We may be from different political views. We may be from different economic, social class status. But here are 2 or 3 things that we do agree on that we know would promote justice, inclusion, that would promote the life and success of Black people. Let's just start with those, and then we can sort things out later. So that, I think, is a really important way of thinking about getting common ground for those of people who are not as comfortable with direct confrontation. Angela's saying this has been the highlight of her year. It's been the highlight of mine too. I tell you, not being able to protest for me just cut me hard, because I have learned from my family and community to join the protest, to support them, and particularly in school situations, to be a mediator between my students and any authorities, administration, and police, to make sure everyone stays safe and understand what's going on. So not to do that for my Black students here on campus. In my particular research group, we have the UC student regent, the head of the Black Student Union undergrad and grad, and I want them to be safe, and this gave me something to do to empower that group. And I think I've got some great comments that are coming in now. So people are talking about cleaning up their own organizations or groups first. And I think that there is no harm in waiting. I'm just saying that as you clean up your own group and things that you could be supportive, reach out to organizations that can help you do that work and that can provide models for you to do that, particularly from other groups that give you models of how that cleanup work has done and then how that inclusion practice has kind of gone on. And particularly I say this for professional organizations. So if you're in a particular company or organization and there are Black organizations that do that work, or there are other organizations that know how to do this work in terms of inclusion and justice, how can you support those groups in your professional area just as much as you can think about cleaning up your own house? And then you may find something kind of in that space where it kind of narrows and makes sense and converges together. Good question on considerations about issuing statements. We've seen all kinds of statements come in from everywhere, social media to our own groups, down to individuals issuing statements. The number one thing I say for statements is do your homework. Understand in this moment what Black people, not just scholars, not just leaders, but everyday Black people want to see in those statements. And the number one thing that I've been looking at, studying, I've been asking people, is people want to see deliberate actions that are articulated in that statement. It doesn't have to be a promise, right? So people are nervous sometimes to put those in because they feel like, okay, now it's promise. State clearly that you are going to work towards these things. You need to learn how to do them. But these are the things that you want to see happen. And you can prioritize them in terms of, look, we're going to spend articulated time learning about these issues. Then we're going to do this action that we feel like we can control more, and then you can get to the greater things. And people want to see the ways that you'll assess that effectiveness, and the ways that you will include Black people and other people from groups that are underrepresented from whoever is making that statement in that actual plan. And I think that is really important, rather than just a statement that says, we support Black people in this time. We don't need your support just in this time. We need your support every day. And I think that that is really important to kind of think about in those statements. Okay. Any good resources for language that helps us minimize argumentative responses? Yes. I have a lot of that I've done in my own work, but I think the one that's the most like direct and easy to follow is the Southern Poverty Law Center Speak Up Guide. So if you Google SPLC or Southern Poverty Law Center and Speak Up, that guide is organized to the level of which you kind of want to have confrontation in those comments. So it could be more like, look, this is the law, we can't speak like this in here. But then there's other ones that say, when you say that, that really affects me and that affects the people around me. There's all different levels of kind of thinking about that, those responses with respect to your power dynamic. Like no one's, in the situation necessarily that, I grew up in the South, rural South living, Richmond, where the statues are coming down as a student. And I knew that I couldn't make every single, most progressive decision in that time and space. So I had to make choices about what I wanted to say and do. And so I have a huge empathy for those of you all who are living in more confrontational and working and trying to learn in confrontational spaces. And that's why that guide really sticks out for me. People are saying, okay, what happens when the next big media story diverts everyone's attention? Will this work fall back on those who are already doing it? Well, I think that's why it's even more important to think about what organizations you can support in the short and long term. And this could be with donations. I love people who've been writing to me and been writing to Kristen and setting up monthly donations to different organizations, including the Lawyers Committee. But making these statements have not just actions, but timelines will also help us keep going past the diversion. So we'll say, okay, we're going to do this for the rest of 2020. But here's what we're going to do in 2021, right? And kind of think about your part of your statement being all of my students know this, your action plan and also your timeline. And I think that's really important to kind of keep things going. And I see people saying, that's the way you don't lose focus because it's on your calendar. If you got, I saw some beautiful work out there and you can find this pretty easily, but I'll also post it. If you want to work on racial justice and inclusion for 10 minutes a day, what can you do? Or if you want to work on it for 2 hours a week or 5 hours a month, right? Making commitments to have meetings, to have this time set aside. And that's the model that I actually use with my colleagues on inclusion work here in the UC and at UC Santa Barbara. Even with my colleagues as they think about changing their classes and their practices. Don't just tell me what you're going to do. Give me a time frame and a time limit. And then we can really work on creative ideas for you to do with the time and energy and the expertise that you have. All right, 2 more minutes, but I'll definitely try to answer as many comments that I can. We'll definitely keep doing these webinars. Like I said, the Lawyers Committee has loved the feedback from the webinars and wants to be involved with that, so we'll keep you posted. I have some different podcasts coming out from different orgs that have been reaching out, partly in response to this webinar and other things I've done. So look for those in the campaign site and also on my social media. And think about your own timeline. The thing that you're going to do next, I think, is really important. So my thing is to keep this campaign going, right? And to speak out and to speak more directly from me in my own next couple of weeks with more administrators here on this campus in the UC and try to be bolder and try to ask for more in all of those conversations. So take the individual, make it specific, but that action, we need it now. This is our time. People have been waiting and waiting, but people are dying. They're dying in the streets. They're dying in ICUs. If we don't do it now, quite honestly, I don't even know when we would do it. Good resources for activism in rural communities, predominantly white rural communities. Yes, there are. There are actually even some rural education organizations. I had several students in particular who worked on that model. And I think in that model in particular, the local nonprofits and groups that sponsor rural groups are important. So Lawson asked me that. I will send you some of those. You can even email me or message me because I actually had a student who worked on that for quite a bit. All right, it's been a half an hour, so I'm going to break because one of the important things that we have to do in this time is rest. Give ourselves time to rest and recover. But I want to encourage you to keep asking questions in the comments, and I will put responses both in the comments here and then also on my website. And most of these things that I post are public, so you can scroll through and see what's there already. I think we'll have 2 videos because the first one kind of went down, but that was just an overview. So this is the main video, and Facebook will put this up just as soon as it's ready. Thank you so much.